Hi, everybody. Whoops. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the June 16th meeting of Community Resources. Just remind you that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. And the roll call, please.
Sure. Councillor Clemmer.
Here.
Councillor Perry.
Here.
Councillor Dobbs.
Here.
And Councillor Rothenberg.
Here.
Is there any public comment? Nobody online, right?
Well, there's no mic.
Oh,
There's one over here.
there's nobody in the waiting room. Yeah. Ben, please state your name and where you. Yeah, just please state your name and where you're from.
My name is Benjamin Spencer. I live in Northampton, and I'm just here more or less in support of the Downtown Northampton Association, all the work that they do. I'm also a member of the Part in Our Progress Committee. I'm excited that there's a collaboration going on between the Downtown Northampton Association, Part in Our Progress, the Mayor's Office, to really help support our downtown businesses before, during, and after the Picture Main Street project. It's very exciting to see so many events on the horizon, and just even just Arts Night Out. I don't know if folks have been able to make it out to the last few Arts Night Out as the weather gets nicer, but I was at the Center for the Arts and this past Friday, and it was just tremendous, the amount of people. So a lot of that I attribute to the Downtown Northampton Association, the efforts that they do to promote these events, the ripple effect that that has for all of our businesses in the downtown community, and bringing our community together. So just thought I'd come and say those words. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? No other public comment? Okay, then we'll move on to the minutes from the previous meeting from March 17th. So could we approve the minutes?
To approve. Oh, I'll second that.
So Councilor Perry moved to approve, and then Councilor Dobbs seconded it. Roll call, please.
Councillor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councillor Perry.
Yes.
Councillor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councillor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any updates and announcements from any of the committee members? Councillor Dobbs.
Thank you. I wanted to mention we are having an ordinance review committee open meeting, like a listening session at the Senior Center on June 30th, 2025, from 6 to 8 p.m. We want to hear from you. If you want to tell us about a city ordinance that you think should be removed, added, or changed, but can't make this meeting, please send your request to L. Krutzler, KRUTZLER, at northamptonma.gov, and the committee will review it. So hope to see you there. That's at the Senior Center from 6 to 8 p.m. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, moving right along. So we have a speaker today, and I'm very excited to welcome the Executive Director of the Downtown Northampton Association, Andrea Munson. And just to hear what she's been up to. She's new. You started early this year, right? And so she's about 6 months in now, and she's kind of hit the ground running. So we're excited to hear what's going on and what the plans are and what all she's been up to.
Great. Thank you so much. Oh, yep. Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity to share just what we're doing at the Downtown Northampton Association. Like you said, I have only been there for about 6 months. I started in February. And, you know, the DNA is a very strange creature. It is a combination of business association and a bid with maybe some little elements of a chamber, but it is quite unique in that it's hyper focused on downtown Northampton. And so unlike a bid, it does not collect funds from property owners. And unlike a small business association, it doesn't have any kind of funding from state or federal funding. So I know that you all know that there was once a bid, and so the DNA kind of came in place of that. And so it's been, I think, 8 years now that the DNA has been around, and I think it's finally starting to find its place and figuring itself out, its identity. So we have a very robust, talented, and passionate board, and we have added more board members since I came on that are really helping to shape the identity of the DNA as a legitimate nonprofit, because we just received our nonprofit status last year. So let me tell you about a couple of things that we're doing. So we are trying to uplift the downtown, especially when it comes to the downtown businesses. So one of the things that the DNA focuses on is business advocacy. And we, as a business owner myself, I look at the downtown through that eye of, if I was a business here, what would I want? What would I need? What do I expect? What do I obviously have to endure as a downtown business owner? The rents are probably the highest in the area. And so at the same time, the foot traffic is probably the highest in the area. So one of the things that we are doing is trying to be a little more creative with the way that we market the downtown. So that starts with social media, but it also starts with having editorial things or having partnerships with organizations like Northampton Media or like Historic Northampton, and doing creative projects that I can't tell you a lot about because they're still being planned. But for me, a downtown who is united, where organizations are talking to each other and collaborating, and the businesses do have a voice in how the downtown functions, is a healthy downtown. In my experience as a TDI fellow for mass development, I worked across many different cities that were all in different stages. But the one thing that was common were cities that worked in silos were cities that weren't doing as well. Even cities that didn't have creative grant applications, didn't have sometimes passion for its own district. So what I see in Northampton is a lot of potential. There's already a lot of organizations that know and talk to each other. And one of the biggest things that the DNA provides right now is the Downtown Business Forum. It is a lively bunch. We gather once a month at the Hotel Northampton, and it is open to the public. So it's, 10 o'clock on every second Thursday of the month. You have a group of passionate business owners in the downtown who are actively trying to uplift the area in whatever ways they can. And I think one of the best examples right now is the Great Northampton Haunt. Now, the Great Northampton Haunt is the brainchild of Misha, who is the owner of Spill the Tea. And together with Isaac, who's one of the owners of Familiars, they are creating such a buzz around the downtown. Every business is engaged. Every business is excited. And it actually coincides with one of the biggest dips in sales for the downtown, which is October. And I didn't know that. But if you look at Northampton, you look at its history, and this is where folks like the Historic Northampton comes in to fill in the gaps, is that we actually had witch trials before Salem did. And we have stories of hauntings. Definitely the Academy of Music. I've heard that from so many people. Hotel Northampton. Some spots on Market Street are said to be a little bit haunted. So we want to play into that. And this started as a conversation. I remember Misha telling me about it. And that's what the DNA does. It just meets with people and just kind of spreads this information, and it catches on. And so, Misha and Isaac have been very busy talking to people and coming to the Downtown Business Forum and presenting these ideas. And, I don't want to get into the details because it's not my child, but I can tell you it's a push to have downtown Northampton activated every single day in October. Every day they're thinking of programming something from trick-or-treating to decorating shops to having parades to having costume contests. It's something that I'm personally very excited about and looking forward to. But this is something that happens when business owners get a chance to get together and talk to each other and understand that they're not alone in what they're doing. I think a lot of talented business owners, they work in silos and they're hustling for themselves. And when they talk to other people, they're like, oh, you're going through that too. Or how did you handle that? Oh, well, I did this. And there's all of this exchange of ideas. And that is a beautiful thing because it keeps the downtown business community healthy and talking to each other and learning from each other. So that's one of the big things that we do to provide. We provide a home for downtown businesses is what someone said, and I like to think of it that way. We have a really great relationship with the city, and in the last month, there's been this development with a city engineer. His name is Ben, and he is in charge of making sure that Northampton becomes carbon free by 2050, I believe. And so together we're working with Smith potentially and the downtown businesses and maybe bringing in someone like Pedal People to make a true collaborative effort to not just come up with a better way for the downtown to compost together, but also the whole recycling process right now. So there's compostable materials that businesses feel they need to carry. However, those don't get well separated between the recycling, plastic, and regular. And so what happens is that this compost material ends up contaminating the rest of the plastic. And so that can't be recycled. So what we're working on is finding a way, and again, this is business led. So having the businesses voice the way that this should go and the direction this should go. Finding a way to rework that ordinance would be, I would say, the first step. Second step would be to decide which containers are permissible in the downtown. And the third step would be to come up with a buyer's club so that the DNA would take the brunt of the costs, and then that would reduce the cost of all the businesses that would need to purchase these products. So we would buy it in bulk, they would buy from us, it would be a lot more discounted for them, and it would help the just environmental and sustainability efforts of the city. So one of the things that I became aware of when I came to this position is how do we, as the city, work alongside Smith more, and how does that relationship become more apparent? And fortunately, the director of communications just joined our board, so that's quite a win for us because we have direct access to information and better ability to communicate amongst the different departments of Smith. And so, we're having this conversation of the composting program and the plastics program with Smith because they have a large composting site that we could potentially use. And so this would allow for Smith to be more visible in the downtown as a fellow partner of this city that we all inhabit. And it helps us develop these strong relationships. So as we come to something like the Main Street redevelopment project, we have open avenues of communication and we have rapport built, and we can better navigate those obstacles as those come about. So the DNA is also a member of POP, and POP was a group that was started, really it was born from the chamber, if I could tell the story. Vince saw some of the things that were happening, and he put a document together that said, these are the things that we really should be looking at as we approach this project. And I believe between the city and other entities, this group POP formed, which is Pardon Our Progress. That's how I came to the DNA. So I started volunteering with POP last year in the summer. And just my background working in economic development, I was still hungry to continue working in that field and hungry enough to do it as a volunteer. And so that's how I came to POP. And since I've joined, I've seen a lot of organization form with POP. They got a grant for a consultant that also helped POP ensure that that we were thinking about everything as much as possible. And there's a beautiful report that she put together for us that I'm sure we can make available at some point. But it reviews all of the different Main Street projects that are similar to Northampton that happened in other cities and other states what they learned, what they did wrong, what they did right. And in many cases, she was able to communicate with folks from these cities and get direct quotes and direct feedback as to, hey, do this, definitely don't do that. And the great news after getting that report is, POP is really, Northampton itself as a city is ahead of the game compared to many of the other cities who have had this kind of project. We're thinking about business support. We're thinking about construction mitigation. We're thinking about communication strategies. We're thinking about potential funding opportunities. And in the past couple of months, we launched a citywide survey for downtown business owners to give us direct feedback. I'm in the process of analyzing that data and putting a report together, but I can tell you candidly that the businesses are afraid. They're afraid because we find ourselves in really uncertain times right now. So that's just baseline. On top of that, we're still recovering from a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic. And that has caused economic fluctuation. And so they see the Main Street project as kind of like, the last thing they need, the nail on the coffin, really. And our job is to ensure that communication is going out so that they know accurate information and they understand how these projects tend to go. I mean, we have statistical data that shows that after a redevelopment project, many cities flourish. I mean, you can look at Great Barrington as a great example. But it is the dynamic within the city. And so POP has the city sitting on it, the chamber, the DNA, Valley CDC, and a few other local residents who are passionate and vested in the city. So I would say that Northampton is, I would agree with Emily Ennis that Northampton is ahead of the game when planning and thinking about how this project is going to affect the entire downtown. And the last thing I will tell you about is the efforts that have come out of the DNA, but also from a local resident who happens to be here today, who came up with the idea of how do we tap into people who are professionals in this field. And that's how we are planning to bring Jeff Speck to downtown Northampton to speak. Jeff Speck wrote Walkable Cities, so that he's a renowned urban planner, city planner. And he is going to tailor his talk to the Main Street redevelopment project. He's close by. He lives in Boston, and his partner, Chris Dempsey, actually is very familiar with Northampton. So they're going to come and speak, and we plan to have a panel of mayors who have already gone through a Main Street redevelopment project to also speak on the same day. We're actually having it booked at the Academy of Music, and the date is November 27th. That is a Monday. It's not part of the Great Northampton Haunt, but it is kind of scary to think about the project. So we figured it would probably go November 20th, or I'm sorry, October 27th. Sorry. We're still figuring out the time. I think the mayor's panel will be somewhere around 6:45, and Jeff would probably step in around 8 o'clock to talk. And that's just some of the many things the DNA does. We also have a beautification arm. So you probably have seen all of the cleanup that goes on, and that's led by Kevin McAllister. And we also have we're in a big events a big events organization. And you might have heard rumors, and I will confirm the Taste is coming back to Northampton. It's coming back for 2 days. And it's going actually back into the original spot. So it's not going to be on Main Street. It's going to be behind Thorns in the Armory lot. So, and on top of that, we have sidewalk sales to look forward to in July. We have the Great Haunt, and chalk art is kind of being swallowed into the Great Haunt, and it's going to adapt a little bit. And then we have the Holiday Stroll, and then next year we have things up our sleeves that we can't reveal yet. But we are aware there's a big gap in the calendar between January and July. So our events committee, which has also grown and flourished, is actively planning on how we might fill in those gaps with more creative events that will bring people in. And maybe there'll be events that partner with folks like the Three County Fair. and Taylor over there, who is the new ED there. So stay tuned and thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Is anybody, and thank you very much. It's great that so much is going on. And I think one thing that we really needed here was a point person to organize all this and bring everybody together. So I think you're doing a commendable job with that. And it's really exciting to see it moving forward. Does anybody, Councilor Perry?
Hi, Andrea. Good to see you again.
You too.
Thank you for your presentation and all of the work, because it seems from what you said that it is indeed a whole community. You know, it takes a village
Oh, yeah.
to do this work. So thank you for bringing folks in. I will say you and I have talked before, and I'm excited to help fill in those January to July.
Mhm.
Did some of that work in the Vibrance Project.
Mhm.
So again, we've got some things. Couple things though for you. Questions are, I know that you talked about supporting businesses, but I was wondering if there's any work being done in trying to recruit new businesses here.
Yes.
And so
So this is a project that is still getting shape. It's still getting created. But when I worked in Chicopee, I worked with the chamber closely to develop a welcoming packet and a welcoming experience for businesses that wanted to come to the downtown. And that involved working with all of the city departments first. And so that's the step that I'm in right now. So I have a really good relationship with the folks at the health department, and I plan to have introductions to the folks in the fire department and in building. And the idea is working with the property owners and working with real estate agents before businesses sign a lease. So I have seen many, many times where a business will come in and they don't consult any of those departments first, and they'll sign a lease and they start construction, and then they find out, oh, wait, I need to put a hood in, and that's $60,000 that I don't have. Or this is going to need an upgraded plumbing, or this is going to need upgraded electricity. I didn't weigh that into my cost. Somehow I can't pull it off, and I'm not able to open my business in this spot. And inevitably, the business will look to the city as the bad guy because they didn't, quote unquote, let me, without really understanding that there's zoning and there's certain codes that are just, it's not the city being mean. It's just you being uninformed. And so my goal is to get to those folks before they sign a lease and eventually start some kind of program where I can have maybe someone from the health department or someone from the fire department walk that space with me and with the potential business owner, so that they can point things out and say, no, you're going to need you're going to need a sprinkler system here, or you're going to need a gas upgrade, and you can't, because in the city of Northampton, we can't do that. So this is not going to work here. And so working with the existing entities like building owners and real estate agents and the city to develop a process. So if I'm a business coming in, the first thing I do is I meet with the DNA. And the DNA says, okay, you need to ensure that you have a business license. You check with the health department, make sure that you don't need any upgrades. We need to go and talk to the fire department, make sure that you don't need to change, or if you need to pull a building permit or whatever. Someone who's going to walk folks through it, especially if this is their first time or they, lack the experience. So that's one of the ways that we want to support new businesses coming in. Once we have that process ready and it's approved by the different departments, and all of the real estate agents know, all the property owners know that their first step is to contact us so that we can make sure they walk through this properly, then we can think of how are we going to start marketing downtown to bring those businesses in. But it would behoove us to do the process first so that it's as smooth as possible for the businesses, so that there's no bumps in the road for them, so that if they come, we keep them instead of flailing and then potentially losing them, or, some other circumstance.
that's awesome that you're working on that. And I would, I guess, also suggest maybe having something similar for folks who want to throw events. So
Yes.
I was running Race Street Live in Holyoke. We were able to meet with, all the relevant people because we want to do an outdoor festival. So we got the police and fire and everything in one space. So that would be kind of nice to do that as well.
That's really nice. Yeah, I would like to do that as well.
And there are a couple things, unless anyone else. All right, cool. I did want to ask if you think that we can do more as city council to help things. And especially, I think for me, one thing I'm very interested in is communication city events, ways in which to get the word out. You know, we're living in an era where there's so many lines of communication, like people utilize social media so differently. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how, other than, you know, the awesome things you're doing.
Do have some thoughts, yeah. I've always wanted to start an economic development TikTok because there's just nothing out there, and the stuff that is out there is like some person with a PowerPoint, and I'm just like, no, that's just not working for TikTok. So, but that's just my own side project. The city has been working really hard. And thanks to Annie and to Alan, they secured a $150,000 grant for communications and marketing for POP, for Main Street, mostly for Main Street redevelopment, but that's also going to help all of the city of Northampton. So we're thinking not just branding Northampton, because Northampton really doesn't have any brand elements. So developing those, and then developing a really robust events calendar that has the ability to scrape all of the other million calendars out there in the valley and kind of amalgamate everything and put everything in one place so that it becomes the central place that people go and check what's happening in the valley and what's happening in Northampton. So I personally want to build that as part of the DNA and as part of POP and as part of our marketing efforts. I think that the chamber and the DNA have a lot of potential in partnering together, seeing as the chamber focuses on, 50 miles out, and we focus on the main focus is on the downtown. So as POP continues to plan and develop these strategies, I think we will keep you informed as to how we're going to use all that funding to ensure that the businesses are getting the proper marketing, but also the downtown and Northampton as a city has an identity.
Last thing I just wanted to ask you about, because I know you didn't mention it, is kind of your idea to reinvent Arts Night Out.
Oh yes, Arts Night Out. It is this Arts Night Out has been passed over to different organizations. It has functioned somewhat differently depending on who had it. And I got together with my events committee after really thinking, okay, in the previous ED had to get everyone to fill out a form. So everyone that was participating that night to fill out a form. She would then put all of that information onto a website that frankly does not receive much foot traffic. And then she would print these flyers the day of and get them to businesses to distribute. But day of is a little bit short notice for folks to be planning what they're going to do that night. So, and this is stuff that she inherited. She really was, I have a great amount of respect for the previous ED and everything that she did given what she had. So, the events committee got together and they're like, this is not working. This is a broken system. So what can we do right now to actually bring it back to life? And a few things is marketing it. So putting dollars behind actually getting the word out that Arts Night Out happens in Northampton every second Friday of the month. I have asked the city for a donation of parking, and that's still to be determined, but they are considering having a dedicated parking lot that is free so that folks are incentivized to come. We're also working with the Northampton Jazz Festival. So they're putting jazz music in different restaurants around the downtown starting in July. And we are trying to program Pulaski Park. So putting different acts in there and then also working with Northampton High School and different organizations to put performances and musicians, and really I'll take mimes, I'll take anything, and line them down from the Museum of Art all the way to 33 Holly so that people can actually feel there's something tangibly happening today. There are all these performers everywhere. And we're taking big silver sparkly balloons and putting them in the spaces that are actually having something that night so that people can find them. We're producing a map for July. So July's are kind of our big push date to start making a lot of noise. But we recognize it is going to take some time for this to catch on. We have we have to compete with other cities, but we also have to encourage all of the businesses to participate, because if I'm correct, what was told to me in the past is that everybody participated, and that's why it was so much fun. You know, you had Ode putting on fashion shows, you had performances in different spaces, you had probably more galleries at the time, but I think by encouraging businesses to stay open a little late and to have something going on and to market that collectively, we can actually have some kind of impact on the surrounding areas. So as we move into July, and as I'm putting the brass band in Pulaski Park in July, and I'm working with other organizations and groups. There's a gentleman that puts on hip hop shows, so I'm going to bring him into the mix. We want to activate the downtown on that day, and so as many people as can participate, the better. And we hope that come the Great Haunt, by that Arts Night Out is going to be an incredible one, because we've already been making a lot of noise for all of these months and encouraging people to come. And we know from a marketing standpoint, it takes 7 touch points for someone to actually get it. So we need to make a lot of noise, and as many people as possible, the better, because then we'll reach more people. And I'm grateful to the Academy of Music and Deborah over there, who has a 55,000 emailing list. So she's going to help. She's going to help us reach folks all the way down to Brooklyn. So yeah.
All right. I will pass to someone else, but I did want to say that you had mentioned in your kind of overview about the composting and whatnot and bringing in Smith. I'm really excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had actually talked to Jeremy, who's the chair of the Ordinance Review Committee, about some of the businesses wanting to talk about that. So if whatever you can do to let folks know to come to our next meeting would be great.
I can
hear from the businesses.
I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ben Weil, Director Ben Weil is Kappa. I think that's a Ben you were talking about.
Yes, that has been. Yeah.
And I'm just so excited that you're really promoting everything, because there's nothing worse than, not having anything to do and then realize you missed some great event.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really glad you're getting the word out about all that's going on. Councilor Dubs.
Thank you. I don't necessarily have a question, but I kind of wanted to just introduce myself and offer any collaboration or help that I can give. So my name is Jeremy, and I'm city councilor in Ward 4. And one of the reasons I wanted to become city councilor is because I like the fact that you use the word potential, because I also believe that Northampton has a lot of potential, and more specifically, more potential to be more accessible to people in Northampton, to residents in Northampton and visitors of Northampton. As a resident of 20 years in Northampton, I'm sure you probably know that there are a lot of businesses that are not accessible to wheelchair users and other disabled people. And there are some businesses, many businesses in Northampton that I've never been able to enter in the 20 years that I've been here. And I think there is potential on Main Street right now, with the picture Main Street coming up and the widening of the new sidewalks, will give some opportunity, perhaps, to build ramps at some of the businesses that only have one step. There's a lot of businesses that are close to being accessible, but not quite there. So anything I could do to help. One example I like to give is that, basically, I feel that if we're looking out for the people that are most vulnerable in our community, then there's a good chance that we're also helping everyone else too. You know what I mean? And so one example I like to give is ramps versus stairs. And everybody can use a ramp, but not everybody can use stairs. You know what I mean? So I feel like, and I would love to see Northampton be more inviting to people and at businesses, for example. Yeah. So anything I can do to help out. That's basically my question. And if you have any thoughts about accessibility in Northampton.
I think it's really important. And yeah, I think that the Main Street Redevelopment Project presents a really good opportunity for, if we could find funding to help with facade improvement, then we could kind of take care of a few things with,
Exactly. Yeah. And one thing I like that you said was you talked about how business owners are passionate about uplifting, uplifting our city. And I have talked to many business owners who want to be more accessible. They actually have that desire, but it like you said, there are challenges like funding and things like that, and it would take collaboration, with the city and businesses to become more accessible. So yeah. So any way I can help, just let me know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Shout.
Councilor Rothenberg, do you have any questions, comments? Okay,
Paige struggling with my unmute button there. I don't have any questions. I just, of course, want to say that we have so many great businesses in Ward 3 and in the DNA, and we're so appreciative of them. And I always want to call out Isaac and Deb, and also increasingly Kevin and Diane from Splendor Solace, always Joe's Pizza. There's just a lot of good stuff going on, and I appreciate the support that you all provide to each other. So thank you so much.
does anybody out there have any questions? Comments? You have another?
Of course, I have
Yes,
more to say. I was just wondering, Andrea, for anyone who also wanted to get involved in the DNA, are there opportunities?
Absolutely.
Beautification thing. So if you want to speak about ways that people in our community can get involved.
Yeah, definitely with the beautification thing. When it happens, it gets a lot of attention. Just the past one that we did, I received, I think, about 3 or 4 emails from residents, some folks brand new to the city who just wanted to do more and wanted to get involved. So it was really easy to kind of get more volunteers. But I would say with events, you have a lot of businesses that are there. For example, with the taste, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of staffing. It's a lot of payroll. And so our idea is, how do we build a, and this is from the previous ED, how do we build a DNA army? How do we get a group of volunteers that could help some of the businesses with maybe breaking down, maybe setting up? Sidewalk sales is another event that is a huge burden for the businesses because they're out there 4 days, all 4 days. And again, it's a big payroll lift. So if they had a little bit of help where it could help reduce some of that payroll cost, that would be pretty phenomenal.
No, I'm just here to be children during the
Okay, well, since there's no more questions, I guess we could just wrap it up. And I'm really excited. And I know Misha, Halloween's her favorite holiday, and it is kind of this weird time of year. The kids are back at school, the days are getting shorter, and it's getting colder. So I think that it's brilliant just to have events. It's something to look forward to in October. I like October because it cools off, and I'm not a heat person, so I'll be out there stuff. But thank you so much for coming today, and thank you for all you're doing. And it's amazing how much you've accomplished in such a short time. So I'm excited to hear what you have in another 6 months and to follow what's going on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we took a minute.
We did.
Is there any new business from anybody? In that case,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
thank you.
I'll second that motion.
So motion made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Dubs. Roll call, please, Laura.
Okay, Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Dubs,
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody for
Break to the next one.